You ever get accused of breaking into your own house? Well, I did. And the woman who called the police, she had no clue she'd just picked a fight with the wrong man. Because not only did I own the house, I also happened to be the guy in charge of investigating people like her. This is the story of how an HOA president's ego turned her entire life upside down, and how I got the sweetest revenge of all, legally. It started with a drive through the foothills of Crestwood Pines, a gated community where homes were expensive, lawns were manicured like golf courses, and egos were even bigger than the property taxes. I'd just inherited a home from my Aunt June. We weren't close, but I'd always respected her. She was a firecracker of a woman who built her life on her terms. In her will, she left me her home, tucked away in the back end of Crestwood Pines by the reservoir. Peaceful, scenic, and unfortunately governed by one of the most notorious HOAs in the county. I'm Mason Ellis. I'm 38, recently divorced, and a lead investigator with the Department of Community Oversight. And in case you're wondering, yes, that means I investigate HOA corruption for a living. Ironic, huh? I drove up with my dog Murphy in the back seat and a weekend bag packed. I figured I'd spend a few days cleaning up the place, maybe decide whether I wanted to keep it or sell. What I didn't expect was to get reported for trespassing before I'd even made it inside. I was halfway up the front steps, keys in hand, when a woman's voice stopped me cold. Excuse me, sir. You can't be here. I turned to see a short, tense woman in her mid-50s, wearing a teal blouse and white slacks, striding toward me like she owned the sidewalk. She held a clipboard. That was my first red flag. The second was the enormous laminated badge around her neck that read, Crestwood Pines HOA, President. You guessed it, HOA, Karen. Who are you? And what are you doing at this residence? She barked. I'm Mason Ellis. I inherited this property from my aunt, June Carrington. Her face twisted like she'd just bitten a lemon. Impossible. That home has been vacant since Mrs. Carrington passed, and there's been no record of new residency approval. I'm not applying for a job, I said dryly. I own the house. I have the deed. She ignored me. Every new homeowner must attend an orientation, pay the $750 registration fee, and pass a neighborhood character screening. It's all in the bylaws. I was too tired for this. Look, I'm just here to clean the place up. I don't need your approval to enter my own home. She stepped forward, blocking the door like a bouncer at a club. If you do not leave this property immediately, she said, pulling out her phone, I'll be forced to call the sheriff. I sighed. Knock yourself out. She dialed with dramatic flair, muttering something about criminal activity and suspicious strangers. Meanwhile, I unlocked the door and stepped inside with Murphy, who barked once loud and deep. That shut her up for the moment. 15 minutes later, 2 sheriff's vehicles pulled into the driveway, lights flashing, neighbors peeking through blinds. Karen stood proudly out front, like she'd just captured a terrorist. I stepped out with a file folder in hand, ready for war. The lead deputy, mid-40s, professional, approached. Sir, we got a call about a potential break-in. Can I see some ID? Of course, I said, handing over my license and a photocopy of the property deed. You'll find everything in order. Karen hovered over his shoulder. He's lying. That property has HOA restrictions. No one can live there without board approval. The deputy looked at the deed, then back at her. Ma'am, this clearly shows Mr. Ellis is the legal property owner. But he didn't go through proper channels, she snapped. He can't just waltz in like he owns the place. The deputy narrowed his eyes. He does own the place. And who are you again? I asked, stepping forward. Karen puffed up like a pufferfish. Karen, president of the HOA. I smiled slowly. Well, Ms. Karen, I'm Mason Ellis. I work with the state. My office is responsible for auditing HOAs for legal compliance. You could hear a pin drop. After confirming everything, the deputies apologized and left. But Karen didn't go quietly. This isn't over, she called from her driveway. I'll have the board involved. I closed the door, laughing. Poor Murphy looked as confused as ever. The next morning, I filed an incident report with my department. Not out of spite, but because that's literally my job. By noon, I'd opened a formal investigation into Crestwood Pines HOA. The complaints flowed in like water from a broken faucet. Fines for lawn gnomes, threats over mailbox color, bylaws changed without homeowner votes, and my personal favorite, a $1,000 fine because someone had a holiday wreath on their door in February. Over the next month, I visited the community several times, taking notes and reviewing meeting minutes. Karen's power trip was on full display. She'd been fining people, canceling elections, and pushing through new rules without transparency. She even tried to get me removed from the premises during one audit visit, claiming I was creating disorder. Big mistake. The audit report was scathing. Crestwood Pines was found in violation of multiple state statutes, including failure to conduct proper elections, misuse of funds, and harassment of homeowners. A state-mandated re-election was ordered. Karen was furious. She tried to rally the board, most of whom resigned. At the emergency HOA meeting, which I attended in an official capacity, the homeowners voted unanimously to remove her. Karen screamed, cried, and eventually had to be escorted out by the very sheriff who cleared me that first day. She threatened lawsuits, but her own insurance refused to cover her. Turned out she'd been embezzling funds to pay for community upgrades that never happened. 3 months later, Crestwood Pines got a new board, one that actually cared about the residents. Lawn gnomes returned, mailbox colors diversified, and no one cared if you put up Halloween decorations in September. Karen. She had to sell her house to pay off legal fees and fines. I heard she moved 2 towns over and joined a knitting club. The home I inherited, I kept it. I still spend my weekends there, sitting on the porch with Murphy, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over the reservoir. Sometimes I see new board members walking by, waving with genuine smiles. No clipboards, no threats, just neighbors. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, share your favorite part in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.